Hi, this is Linda Willow-Roberts with another Enlightened conversation. I'm so pleased to be joined today with Clair Hill. Claire is a psychic and a clairvoyant. She's a certified Heal Your Life Louise Hay teacher. She's a mum, a sister, a daughter, a niece, and all of those things. And Claire, welcome. Thank you for coming and talking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you, sharing away.
Oh, I know. Isn't it fun? I wanted to talk to you about so many things, but first I'm just going to say to Spirit, I'm just going to put it up there to Spirit for us to talk about what we need to talk about today. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you the most about is coming out spiritually. Now, you've just spent the last couple of years coming out spiritually, and you've been quantum learning and all of that stuff. How hard is it, Claire, to put on all the different hats and balance it all?
Oh my goodness. It is, in the beginning, it was really hard because, as you mentioned, I'm a mum, like wear all those different hats, and to be someone who not everyone knew me as that person was really hard to come out of the closet, I suppose, spiritually. And so it was hard in the beginning, but I'm getting better at being able to manage my time between all those different hats that I wear. So it was hard in the beginning, but now I'm kind of getting used to it and sitting with it a lot better than I was.
Yeah, it's bloody hard. It is, because even when you see people and you've got friends and, really good friends, and you're talking to them, they're you've got to put the good boundaries up, don't you? Otherwise, they just keep asking you, what do you think about this? Or do you know? Or did you know I was going to say this? And just, you've got to do, after a while, your good friends get to know that they don't even ask you, because you just become back to that person, that friend. But it's bloody hard to balance it, isn't it?
It is. And I think as well, I was surprised that my friends have actually been really accepting of who I am, and a lot of them weren't surprised that that's who I am and it's part of me, because for them, I remember one friend in particular, she mentioned that, oh, that makes so much sense now. We always just thought you were a little bit weird. So now they know what the weirdness is, but, a good weird, and, they've embraced it, and my family have as well. And I've been really surprised sometimes that, someone who I thought may not be accepting were more accepting than other people. So it's, don't judge a book by its cover. A little bit I've learned as well that, and I've also been surprised that a lot of people are really open spiritually as well because of what's going on in the world, and they're looking at, looking to view their own lives differently, and they're quite open, spiritually as well. And a lot of my clients that I see, they're awakening as well, and it's been so amazing for me to, teach them what I've been learning as well, and it's fresh in my head. And so it's been a really, beautiful journey for them, and I've been able to be part of that with them as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that with so much going on in the world, people are actually looking for something, and I think that in turn is bringing them back to faith. Like we talk about and being spiritual, we deal with God, but some people can't come to terms with using the word God. So we say spirit and source and light and all of those things, angels, guides. But I think that people now are just looking to have faith in something, that there is something higher out there that can certainly help them. And it's really nice to nurture that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I had to get my head around, was even though, I believe in God and I came through the Catholic system for schooling, the biggest thing for me is you know, having faith, but also realizing that they're all one thing to me. You know, they're all the one thing, you know, the spirit, God, the universe, everything like that is one to me. And it feels nice to have faith in all those things and not just one particular thing. It's nice to kind of realize that I don't have to pigeonhole myself into one particular area, because they are all kind of the same thing, which was hard to kind of get my head around. But now that I have, it's like, oh, that all makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? It's nice when it just falls into place, you know, and you're learning stuff, and you develop and you learn, and then something you hold back, and because it hasn't quite gelled, and then when it gels, it just slots in, and you just get it, and it's just it turns into being your way of life, rather than just something external that you do, doesn't it? It just is your way of life, and it just becomes your belief system.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been so nice to bring some of those practices back into my life as well, because I realized, you know, going to church as a child, it's kind of seemed like a chore. But when I actually was sitting in the church, it really felt like very homely to me. And I didn't realize that until I went back to church actually at Christmas time. And I almost got really emotional about the fact that this is where it all started. You know, this is where my faith began. And I had blocked it for such a long time that it was really emotional, and really, you know, looking up at Mary and Jesus on the cross, like it was really quite emotional. And it kind of felt like it was home, it was safe, it was where I belonged, and that was part of my spiritual journey as well. You know, I kind of felt that it all had gotten to a point, and then I was sitting in the church pew going, oh, this is it, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And it was a really beautiful feeling to be back at that church, and it's, you know, special. And yeah, so that was quite overwhelming. But yeah, that part of, you know, spirituality is means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So that was also a realization that I had in that moment.
Yeah, that's good, and that's what even what we learn though, it means different things to us, and how we read and what we say to people than it does to other people. It's different perceptions, you know. I don't often talk about religion or politics. To me, God is in everything, in all of us, and He's all around. And there is those poignant moments that you are somewhere, and the connection, and you connect to that greater power, and you can be and it doesn't rock your world. That's not even the right way to say it. It's overwhelming, it's all consuming, but that feeling that you feel in your heart, like your heart and your body, you just feel that unconditional love, and you just feel like emotional at the same time, but it's not a sad emotion, it's a happy emotion. And like I've said before, you know, when that higher power is around, and really, like, I feel so small, and not small as in they've made me feel small, but small as in the power and the energy that I'm in is just so encompassing, and it is everywhere, and I just feel like an ant on an elephant's ass, basically. You know, that's how small I feel.
Yeah, I think it's also, you know, when you let go and really let yourself be taken away on that journey, and to get that validation of, yeah, it's there, it's there, and I'm part of that. And you know, it's overwhelming, like you were saying, but it's also amazing to get that validation of I'm on the right path, I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, and you know, God, Spirit, everything's you know, they've got my back a little bit. It's, you know, they're there, and you know, like I think I was saying to you about when I was doing a meditation around my master guides, and and God and Jesus, you know, that was one of my master guides. And I said to you, I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm not worthy for that to be, you know, brought upon me. But I think you said to me, like, sit in it and let it just wash over you, because it won't be as bad the next time, or the next time that you get to that point, it'll feel normal. And now it does feel normal, because I'm letting all that go, and, you know, not controlling, or trying not to control it as much, or letting that control go. And it is actually really lovely to feel that, you know, that support from above. Yeah.
It is. I know when it first happened to me, and you're right, you don't feel worthy. And I just thought, I'm this 5'2" woman from Invermay, Tasmania. How the hell am I getting this connection? And, you know, I think you've got the wrong person. You automatically go to, you know, hey, you're at the wrong house, mate. Somebody down the road deserves this a little bit better. But you go in and you feel so undeserving, and you really then have to work on your self-love and your worthiness. And Jesus, I ignored it for a lot of years, that this was my calling. And I knew I was supposed to help people, but I just didn't quite know how it was going to manifest. And even though I had those signs, I kept bloody ignoring it.
Yeah.
But when you let yourself, like you said, sit in it and feel it, it's beautiful. If I could bottle it and give it to everybody else, I would. It's just a beautiful experience.
Absolutely. I don't think I'll ever forget that. It was almost, yeah, it was scary and overwhelming. But now when I look back, I wouldn't have, I'm glad that it happened at that right time, at that moment, because, you know, as we all know, it's, like when you allow yourself to just go there and be guided, there's nothing better. It's just, you know, like I said, validation and clarification for yourself that you're on the right path. So
yeah, it is. Hey, let us let the secret out of the bag a little bit. By the way, Claire's my niece, and so I find this really, really, really cool. So we've actually got this in our family, our spiritualness and our clairvoyantness, of course, with everybody, but it is twice in our family. So I felt, and we have a really, really, really big family, and so it was me for a long while that was the only one. And now I'm so excited because there's another really spiritual person in you, Claire, and I absolutely love that. You know, so I'm not weird on my own, no. Our family, you know, they love us unconditionally. But it's really interesting. Somebody posted on Facebook the other day, are there any real clairvoyants out there, on somebody else's post? And I thought, I'm going to follow this to see what they were talking about. And they said, is it anybody that hasn't just learnt it and done courses and that actually has it in their family? Now, I sort of disagree with that and agree with that. It's like a two-part way with me, because I feel everybody's empathic, everybody's intuitive. And if they build that muscle, like anything, the more you do courses and that you work on it and you learn, then the more that you're open to it. But then I look at you and I, and you are a natural. Like you just naturally started doing readings and knowing stuff. We've always had that knowing, even before I started doing it for other people. So we always had that knowing. So I'm not sure if it's just that you have to have it in your family lineage, or anybody can learn it and it still be the same. I don't know. I'm a bit yes on both sides. I'm a bit of a fence sitter when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because I have just been away to do the Louise Hay teacher training, and there were ladies there that have the gift, and there was the gift of being able, the knowing, the clairvoyancy stuff. And there was a lady who she didn't have it, but was learning how to tap into that. So yeah, I don't know either. It's one of those things that I think you've got to have an interest in it, and I think it can be learned, but having that knowing already is a really big booster and a big plus, I think, so yeah, I don't know, parts of it I think can be learned, and other parts are kind of ingrained, and we already have them. So I don't know, I'm a bit the same as you. It's kind of, yeah, I think it can be learned, but it would be possibly a longer process, because you're trying to tap into things that don't naturally come to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I sort of thought about it, and that's something that I've not thought about, because I teach everybody, build it up like it's like a muscle. And I suppose, having that knowing and that intuitive stuff, and it in your DNA and genetic line. Did you hear that? Having it genetically in your line would certainly help you, and yeah, you're right, make it not, maybe we don't need to do that and that, and we can just jump to that. I don't know, but I think that we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, I think so too. It's I think it can be. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and she said the same thing. You're so lucky. Do you use it for yourself? Your knowing. And I said, well, yeah, I do, but also sometimes I forget that when I'm, say, doing a reading or something like that, it's having that knowing, but knowing how to actually word if it's not something that the person doesn't want to hear. So not that they don't want to hear, but you've got to be very careful about how you word things, so that like it's a gift, but it's also, it can be a bit of a difficult one if you don't have the right words at the right time.
Yeah, and that's it. And you got to try. I just dropped my crystal, by the way. I was sitting here holding it, and it just went straight on the floor. Don't think it's broken, but that's okay.
Oh,
yeah, you've got to go with your intuitiveness and back yourself 100%, don't you? When you're getting that information, and that's why, when I say when I'm doing a reading, I'm giving you information that's going to help you for your highest good, and I'll just use Spirit's words. So you really have got to back yourself 100% that this is for them in their highest self. I'm a bit of a sledgehammer. Obviously, if somebody needs to come and see me, I'm the person that will put my foot up your backside, sort of thing. I'm the Leo. I'm blunt. I'm out there, and all the rest of it. So people that need to see me and resonate with me come to me, as do people that need to see you and resonate with how you will tell them and interpret it, and backing yourself 100%. It's really, really hard, isn't it?
It's actually funny. Yeah, it is hard. It's funny who I have a particular person, or I have a particular type of person that will come and see me, and sometimes I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but it's to different people, but it's because that they need to hear something particular from me. So It's interesting. And a lot of it, it's funny, I've kind of journaled about the topics that come up for people, because I think a lot of the time it is very it's generic, but also a lot of people would find the advice useful, and it's normally around, relationships. And I love that, because, I can relate, and it's a lot of the stuff, the information that I'm giving back to them is authentic, because I've actually been through some of it myself. So I love that people that are drawn to me around those sort of things, I can, give them 110%, and it's from a beautiful, authentic place, and I love that.
Yeah, you're right. And, that's the way it seems to roll. Like, there are people and clairvoyants, and we both, in our own way, like you doing the Louise Hay teacher training, that you'll be able to expose people and help people in that way. And I do my workshops and theta healing and that sort of stuff. But each person that I've noticed that is clairvoyant and psychic and mediums or whatever, they actually seem to get the people with the things that they've had to deal with in their life. So like there's people that deal with suicides, and they will get, you know, people that have had to deal with those because they're talking from a perspective that they've actually lived and experienced. And so we get what we know, and it's, you know, it's really good because we're not talking with empty words. We're actually talking from our experiences and things that have happened to us that we've lived through, and it gives the dimensions. It gives us, you know, credibility and accountability because we've actually been through that. And I think that you can't beat the experience. And you know what people are going through, and you have the empathy and compassion for them. I reckon that's a bonus.
Yeah, I one thing that I've been learning as well from you, and when I'm doing readings, is that, you know, from coming from experience, you almost, you know, take on that kind of life coaching, you know, form, as well as being guided by your own spirits. And it's, yeah, like some of the time I've had to kind of go, you know, I'm being guided and we're talking, and spirits are, you know, the guides are coming through and they're giving me the information, but also, you know, at this point, I just want to tell you that I've had a similar experience and this is what I did. So exactly what we were saying about that, people can relate to you a lot better because you've had that authentic experience. And I love being able to help people realize that they're not the only person, and it feels so good to be able to relate in that way, because it's, yeah, it gives you a different kind of perspective, or it may give that person a different way to deal with it that they haven't heard before, or yeah,
no, it's really, really good. I'm so we're of service. We have put it out there to help people, to be of service, to be guided, you know. And so when you put it into that terms, you let go of the control part, which is bloody hard, but you let go of the control part of who you get to help, so that you're helping the people that will resonate with you, and therefore you know that will continue. But then you get different people as well, and just a lot as you go along on your journey, you can help people. Sometimes people only need to hear one word, and it triggers something, and it's just, you know, but you got to be accessible and you got to put yourself out there. So that's really, really, really good thing to do. So what has been the hardest thing for a young mum now, and a wife, and all the rest of it? What was the hardest part to get your head around?
You just mentioned it, the control.
Maybe that's why I mentioned it. Did I?
Yeah. It is about, it's totally about the control of realizing that in the overall scheme of life, basically, is that we don't have control. And, you know, yes, you know, generally what you're doing that day as a mum, you know, school drop off, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff that happens. But it is like when I was doing learning things, it is about letting go of control of who you are and who you've actually been. And what I found really difficult was that I had to learn and unpack all of my previous crap, I want to say, I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah. I had to unpack that as part of letting go of the control, because control was, for me, something that I learned as a behaviour to cope with things that were happening in my life, and all the way back to childhood. you know, there were particular experiences that I had that made me hold on to that control, because at that time I didn't have control over anything in my life, or I felt like I didn't, even as a child. So that was unlearning all those behaviors, and part of that being control was the hardest thing for me, was realizing that to let go of that meant unpacking emotional baggage, basically, and emotional things that had held me back in the past. And yeah, part of that was the control. So yeah, control around certain things, certain situations. And it was about basically what it boiled down to was the fact that I had to forgive other people and myself, and the control, you know, kind of melted away with those things. So yeah, it was about learning to accept myself for who I am, forgive, and then change my thoughts around how those experiences were. Therefore, turning to gratitude, being grateful, and accepting myself. So a lot of, yeah, it was kind of a lot of those things, but it all boiled down to that, yeah, control was the hardest thing for me to let go of, and still is. And I'm sure it will be something that I'm not going to be perfect at for my life, but I know that I'm so much better at that than I was. And
Yeah.
it was about just releasing all of those things and kind of peeling the onion layers off and leaving me standing there with knowing that I had no control, but also knowing that me forgiving and accepting who I am now was the most wonderful gift that I gave myself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Patience was one of mine. I'm shit at patience. I want everything now, and I want it all, and I want it all now, you know. But you're right, you know, with control. But in the same aspect of letting go of that, you actually have to love that part of you, because that part of you that can control things, it serves you well sometimes. So it's finding the balance, isn't it, of loving it, but not letting it control you, not letting control you. That's not quite right, but yeah, you know, loving that side of you. So you've got to accept that is, and I think part of it is, and stepping up is naming the thing. You know, giving it a name, and then it loses its power.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's it. But patience is mine. Patience, I've had to pull myself up so many times because I want it all and I want it now. But, you know, free will, you've got to wait for people, you know. Spirit's up there putting jigsaw pieces together and getting you ready. But, yeah, control is even controlling when you're manifesting. You know, you can't control how it's going to come and what form it's going to come. You've just got to put up the idea and the feeling that you want, and then let go of that control as well. So true.
I think as well, a lot of, this is probably going back to, you know, the basics when I was starting this journey, was realizing that there are a lot of emotions under the umbrella of fear. That, you know, it's control, it's anger, it's anxiety, and realizing that they are some of the things that made me, but also realizing that I needed to kind of, like you said, acknowledge the fear and turn it into love, and catch myself when I'm in that headspace of fear. So by catching it and saying to myself, for example, anxiety is a really good one. You know, I'm feeling really anxious and I can feel that anxiety bubbling away. Well, I now have a conversation with myself and say, look, I know you're there, but there's what is it actually raising in me? Is it that am I kind of worried about something else, or is it, you know, I have a bit of dialogue with myself. So then with the anxiety, you know, like you said, recognizing that and talking through that, and putting that thought of love and that thought of, it's okay, you know, I can feel like that, but I'm not going to allow that to get any further than, you know, into an anxiety attack or anything like that. And that's something that I've had to teach myself as well, is that, catching it as quickly as I can and acknowledging it and turning it around and kind of rewiring, the way I have thought my whole life. So, it's about kind of retraining your brain and your thoughts.
Isn't it?
And,
yeah. When we live and conditioning, but the thing that I absolutely love, and my favourite part of it all, is that whatever we change in ourselves ripples down to the next generations, and just will keep rippling down, and we change our DNA and genetics and stuff like that. And you were interested, when you did come out of the Certified Heal Your Life teacher course, you were interested in helping children. And so you'll set up your workshops, and you'll do workshops for adults and children and that. But I love that you're passionate about changing children's outlook of themselves. And I said to Holly, my daughter, when she was young, I'm talking to Claire, so I'm talking about my family. When I said to my daughter that she was going to live a blessed life, and I really believe that however you set your children's intentions up and their thought processes is how they'll feel about themselves. And I love that that's a real important strategy that you're going to move forward with your Louise Hay stuff.
Yeah, it was when I went away, it was a week away doing the training, and I kind of had all these preconceived ideas about what the training, it was gonna help me with this and that. And when I actually got there, the training actually helped me realize that I am a good mum. And I think that was something that I didn't actually believe myself, because we don't get told, or we don't, there's no recognition, there's no awards ceremony for being a mum. It's like, you just do it, and you kind of, it's ingrained in you, and it's, it's something that you do every day without, a lot of thought. It's like a natural thing. And when I realized that my passion for, I think around, because I've had to work through my own negative beliefs, that I, you're right, from generation to generation, going backwards. So my parents, their parents. And I realised that I want to give my kids an amazing perspective about life, and about, even though that's, there are a lot of things in the world at the moment that can be quite fearful, that, it doesn't have to be that way. That's not how you have to think about it, because putting that positivity and affirming that positivity and having a really great self-esteem and self-belief, I think that's amazing gift to be able to give any child, especially with, social media and, what ideals and ideas and things that are put out in the media about what people and children and teenagers should look like, and should, that sort of thing was kind of, it's not sitting right with me. I really want to give my kids and their friends and a really great outlook on what their life can look like, and how also they speak to themselves internally, because I know that's something that I kind of struggled with, my own internal dialogue and what I thought about myself. So I want them to have a different perspective on life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I just love that. Anything about kids, I love. They just need nurturing, and they need the unconditional love part, and that aspect of even when you do inner child work, and when you were younger, that's beneficial to you. But I can remember when I did courses, when Holly, my daughter, was she said, "Don't use my name, Mum. Can't help it. I'm talking to Claire. Sorry." She may never watch this. So when I was doing these courses, I'd go home and her behaviour was changing, and she was doing things differently. And it just made me see, and it was so clear. it was so clear that I would come home from the course that I was doing on that particular night, and she was ringing all her friends, and they were doing and making up and talking in a different manner. And I thought, wow, it really does affect, you know, each generation. So whatever you do for children, hats off, Claire. You know, it's our next generation, and that's what are here for, aren't we? To spread love and unconditional love, and to raise the consciousness of the world. And you're starting where it needs to start. That's great.
Yeah, and I also, it made me realise as well, when I was kind of working out what the workshop with the kids was kind of going to look like, I realised that parents sometimes don't have a starting point where they know they want to make and enrich their child's life in an amazing way, but they don't know where to actually start. And so that kind of got me thinking around, why don't I teach the parents what I learnt while I was away, which will then, so for them to actually work on their own inner dialogue, their own inner child, if that's, you know, there's a lot of different workshops that came out of this, but it kind of, I went, the child, exactly what you were saying about your daughter, about you change the dialogue that you have with them as a parent, and they start to pick it up. So then when I was going to then do the children's workshop with the kids, that the parents have already done a workshop for themselves, they've already heard what I'm going to talk about. They've heard affirmations. They've heard manifesting. They've, you know, kind of got in their head around, you know, using I am statements. You know, I am loved. I am happy. I am an amazing child. It's not going to be foreign language to them. It's going to be, oh, mum says that to me all the time. Or, you know, oh, that's what mum was talking about. And even I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and I've started doing affirmation work with her. And she said to my husband the other day, Dad, do you know what an affirmation is? And he said, yeah. And she goes, no, you don't. It's something positive you say to yourself. And it was just so amazing. She had picked up, and I'd said that to her a couple of times, but she's starting to have a different thought process around herself. And I have done a little bit of mirror work with her. And, you know, I said to my son as well, what do you see when you look in the mirror? And he said, my reflection. And I'm like, yeah, but what else? What do you see behind your reflection, behind your eyes? You know, behind your eyes is your soul. And, you know, he was kind of stuck, and I went, that's just, it kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I'm like, this is something we've never spoken about. And it was just a kind of really nice opening for me to go, well, you know, I see this, and I see a little boy that loves to help people. And, you know, and then Eliza reeled off about 10 things that were wonderful about her.
Yeah.
You know, she's already there. She's like, you've got this, girlfriend. So, so she's kind of a bit more confident, because I think she's very spiritually aware for a 4-year-old. I know that sounds, you know, she's very much there. So it's kind of like she loves it and embraces it. Whereas for boys, Max is also, you know, he's a little bit, or he's spiritual as well, but it's like he needs that extra encouragement. So, you know, by doing, the mirror work and things like that, it's like, it's not strange to them anymore, you know. And when I talk about it, that they kind of want to know. And, you know, I saw Eliza in front of her mirror the other day saying, you know, I am loved and I am lovable, and, you know, and then having other dialogue about other things about herself. So, you know, I just love that they embrace that. And I know that it's something that I want to bring into the parents, so that the way that, you know, like we were talking about, how you word things, and just simple things like affirmations. Some people don't know, you know, it's got to be present tense and obviously positive, so that it's in the here and now, and it's not something, you know. So it is it is kind of a lot to get your head around. But so I wanted to give the parents a starting point. So, and it was, the starting point was around fixing, or not fixing, but helping them realize and unlock things in a really gentle, beautiful way for themselves, and a bit of self-discovery, which is what the Louise Hay is all about, that gentle, self-discovery, having those aha and light bulb moments, and realizing it for yourself, and it's not forced.
Yeah, oh, true. I had, I did that course twice, because every night that I would go, there would be an aha moment and a light bulb moment, and it just clicked, and it went. And because I went back and did it again, because I wanted to fine tune it, like I'd done it to a point. But your kids, that's just beautiful. Like I have to say, Max is the most gentle and beautiful person, and I'm not biased because he's a really, but he really is. Was it last birthday? He actually didn't want any presents, and he actually gave them gave the money to charity. And so, we're responsible for the next generation, and then the next generation, and it can be such a big difference. And I have to say, like, some people call me a hippie, but we're really not hippies. You have your own business. Your husband's in business, so you're a business person. We get dressed up, we go out, we have families, we have dinner parties, we go out to do things, we go away. We're normal people. What is normal? But anyway, but what I'm saying is, like, your kids go to school, you do all the normal things, and you can still bring that love and unconditional love to them, regardless of what the external circumstances are. Okay, you can be a business person and still teach, self-love to your children, and that's amazing. That's just going to help generations and generations, and I love it.
I actually have it's funny because when people ask what I do, I would say I'm a clairvoyant, and it was like, I just wished I had my camera there to take a picture of their faces, because they were like, but you don't look like a clairvoyant. And it's so
what
funny.
What do they look like?
What do they look like? But also, people obviously have that stereotype in their head around, being a hippie, or being different, or, and we are all different in our own way. But, that was kind of a part of me. Is like, I want to break through this stereotype, because I probably don't look like a clairvoyant, apart from the fact that my name is Claire. But it's really funny to see how people react when you tell them, and it's priceless, because there is that sort of typical image about what they look like. But I'm, one of my things is, like, I'm going to make this, or I want to make this a more of a mainstream thing. And it's not, and I think that's what, like I was saying before, that's something that people are, well, if she believes in that, then it's okay for me to, open up and be willing to look at, maybe, well, that's some of the things that I believe in too. And it's really nice, actually, how it unfolds sometimes when you have that conversation.
It is funny, isn't it? I don't walk around with my crystal ball, and that's where Willow come from for me, because people didn't differentiate between Linda and the Willow. And so when I was doing workshops in different places, I would have to say, if I'm at the supermarket, I'm thinking and just living, that's when I'm Linda. And when I'm Willow, I'm not thinking, and I just blurt shit out, So yeah, but that's just how it goes. But I don't walk around with a crystal ball. There's a knock at my door, but I can't do anything about it at this point in time. But yeah, I don't walk around with a crystal ball. I don't do different things. I'm just me. That is just an aspect of me. But that is my way of life, and that is how I live. And so I feel much better when I'm on my spiritual path, Because when I get off the spiritual path, that's when everything turns to shit and I feel like I'm walking in mud. But when I'm on my spiritual path and I'm true and the authenticity, I just flow. And things, it's like I feel lighter in body.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I start to get almost back into my old frame of thinking, because it's like I'll feel very unbalanced and off, and and I'm like, oh, what is this? What's this raising in me? What am I? And then I'll go, oh, I'm trying to control, or oh, I'm trying to do this, and Spirit's almost guiding me back onto that thinking in Spirit. So, and I think you and I have had a conversation around sometimes it's really hard to do day-to-day things, like cleaning and vacuuming, because it's like I'd rather just sit in Spirit and learn and be enriching that part of me that I love so much. It's hard to even do all those menial tasks, like hanging. I've got my washing machine bipping at me right now to hang stuff out, and I'm just like, no, I'm doing this. This is more important, and it's kind of fun and way more fun. Yeah. So it's hard sometimes to get back into that into day-to-day life, but balancing is difficult sometimes.
It is. So Claire, where can people contact you? So have you got any workshops coming up, your web address, you're from Victoria, so you're in Melbourne, your phone number, any information that they can get?
So I've got an email address, and it's clairhillcoaching, all one word, @outlook.com. And I can be contacted through there for any workshops, or I do one-on-one coaching using all the Louise Hay philosophies. I have an info night, but I've had to cap it because there's way too many people coming to fit in my lounge room. So I've had to cap it, but I will be having another one. And I have Clair Hill Coaching on Facebook, which is a public profile. And also I have Claire the Clairvoyant, which is on Facebook as well. So, so I can be contacted through all of those. And I'm also on Instagram, Clair Hill Coaching. So, and I pop some coaching videos and just, affirmations and really trying to get people into that mind frame.
That's really cool. Thank you very much for joining me today. I love talking to you any day. So thank you very much for coming on Enlightened Conversations. This is Linda Willow-Roberts. You can find me at I'm a Manifester Facebook page, or I'm at roberts.linda on Instagram. Thank you very much, Claire.
See ya. Thanks for having me.